Hello, this is UK Mapper. Today's video will be on the effectiveness of the death penalty and whether or not it should be legal. The death penalty, for those who don't know, is when a nation kills someone for a crime that they have committed. It is usually only murder that carries the death penalty. However, in many states, things like political dissent, espionage, rape, armed robbery, treason, or violating certain religious laws can also lead to execution. However, this video will mostly cover its use in the USA. To understand the death penalty, we must first understand why it is ever implemented. It is usually done as a deterrent. However, some people use it to get rid of the possibility of the prisoner ever escaping or being freed. However, over 88% of criminologists believe that it has no effect on crime rates. Out of the 9 nations with the lowest crime rates, in 2018, only 3 of them, Japan, Singapore and Bahrain, had any form of capital punishment. I am personally against the death penalty. This is because, first and foremost, I consider it to be cruel and unusual punishment. And it is also because you can never be 100% sure of someone's guilt. In fact, many sources estimate that around 4% of death row inmates in the USA are innocent. If this statistic is and has been true throughout history, then that means that statistically, 55 innocent people have been executed or murdered since 1976 in the United States alone. Even if I were pro-death penalty, which I'm not, I would still be opposed to it if I knew how many innocent people were being murdered by the state. The death penalty is also not economically efficient, as it costs far more to house, prosecute and then execute a death row prisoner than imprison one for life. This means that in almost all situations, the death penalty is objectively worse than a lengthy prison sentence. Another stupid thing about the death penalty in the USA in particular is the fact that some states allow the death penalty and some don't. This means that killing someone in Michigan instead of Ohio could mean the difference between the perpetrator's life and death, which no matter which side of the death penalty argument you fall under, we can all agree is completely idiotic. Botched executions are also relatively common. Roughly 7% of all lethal injections have gone wrong in some way. When this happens, especially in the case of lethal injections, it can cause hours of suffering before death occurs. Gas chambers are inherently excruciating even when they go to plan. The electric chair can cause someone to catch on fire, and sometimes it can literally cause their face to melt. And firing squads, well, they're kind of self-explanatory in the suffering that they can cause. It's literally punching holes into someone until they die. Are you okay with your government killing people slowly and painfully? And 1 in 25 of them are innocent. If you are in any way a morally upstanding person, your answer should be no. Many will argue that some people are just far too despicable to be allowed to live. And while I don't agree with that point, I do understand it. However, look at it this way. By killing these people, we do not only prove that we are no better than they are, but we also prove that as a society, we would rather kill people than actually try to help them. This brings up an interesting question. Do some people deserve death? Now, the immediate answer to many people is yes. They think that if you take a life, yours should be taken too. But what does this really achieve? I'm sure as a young child, your parents and teachers drilled the phrase, "two wrongs don't make a right," into your head. And this is the same principle here. We have secure enough prisons to keep the chance of escape down to almost 0. And I've told you of the economic problems of the death penalty. So, why do it? Killing the killer does not revive the victim. It just causes more death. Maybe someday the murderer will be rehabilitated enough to become a full productive member of society. If we execute them, we deny them the opportunity of reform. Across the world, the death penalty is growing more and more out of fashion. All European nations, except for Belarus, have outlawed the death penalty, and in many death penalty countries, it is almost never actually used. Even in the USA, capital punishment is declining. California is looking increasingly more and more likely to abolish it, and many northeast coast and midwest states have abolished it recently too. So bearing all of this in mind, why doesn't the US federal government abolish the death penalty? One reason is that the US government is quite ineffective at passing legislation thanks to Congress greatly limiting the president's power. Another reason is that America was founded on the principle of state rights, which allows the more conservative states to hang on to backward practices such as the death penalty. Not that the American system is all bad. It does preserve the democratic oligarchy that is the American government, and it does allow the states to pass good laws better and more effectively. I'm just saying that it has major flaws that need attending to. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video on the death penalty, and found it to be interesting and informative, and that it may have made you rethink some of your ideas and thoughts. Bye.